It's burst into flames! It's falling! It's crashing! When radio broadcaster Herbert Morrison watched a routine landing in New Jersey turn into an inferno, his real-time panic captured the exact moment the public's fascination with airships turned to horror. We are going to break down the exact 32 seconds that destroyed the most advanced passenger aircraft of its day, and unpack the decades of forensic investigation that followed. To understand the magnitude of this failure, we have to rewind. The LZ-129 Hindenburg was a titan. At over 800 feet long, it remains the largest flying machine ever constructed. The Hindenburg offered a level of travel that rivaled the finest Atlantic steamships. Passengers enjoyed a formal dining room, private cabins, and a lightweight aluminum piano, floating across the Atlantic in total comfort. Up until May 1937, the Zeppelin company had a flawless safety record. They have flown over 1 million miles without a single passenger injury, which leaves us with a paradox. How did a seemingly invincible marvel of engineering become a flying inferno? On May 6th, the Hindenburg was struggling. Strong headwinds over the ocean and severe afternoon thunderstorms in New Jersey had pushed its arrival at Naval Air Station Lakehurst hours behind schedule. To kill time while waiting for the weather to clear, Captain Press charted a detour over Manhattan, bringing traffic to a standstill as people rushed into the streets to watch the giant ship pass overhead. By evening, Press opted for a flying moor, a high-altitude landing where the crew would drop ropes from a high altitude down to the ground, rather than easing the ship low to try and make up for lost time. But on final approach, the ship was behaving strangely. It was heavily tilted toward the tail. Captain Press had to dump thousands of pounds of water ballast and send 6 crewmen deep into the bow just to force the nose down, all while making tight S-turns to align with the mast. A rushed schedule, an atmosphere thick with storm electricity, and an airframe enduring unusual stress, the ingredients for disaster were fully assembled. At 7:25 p.m., witnesses on the ground noticed a distinct flutter in the fabric near the upper tail fin. A dim blue flame flickered. Then a muffled detonation echoed through the hull. The Hindenburg was kept aloft by millions of cubic feet of highly flammable hydrogen gas. Once ignited, the fire consumed the entire 800-foot structure in just 32 to 37 seconds. Inside, survival was a matter of inches and seconds. 14-year-old cabin boy Werner Franz was trapped until an overhead water tank burst from the heat, drenching him and clearing a brief path to leap from a hatch. Vaudeville acrobat Joseph Spey used his training to smash an observation window, hanging onto the ledge as the ship fell, and dropping to the ground with a safety roll just before the burning metal collapsed around him. 35 people on board and 1 groundsman were killed. When the smoke cleared, investigators were left with a pile of smoldering wreckage and the beginning of a bitter forensic debate over what actually happened. Suspicion immediately fell on sabotage. Investigators looked closely at Joseph Spey, the acrobat who survived. During the flight, he had made several unaccompanied trips deep into the cargo hull, reportedly to feed his German Shepherd. Even the Hindenburg's own commanders, including Captain Press, insisted that a hidden bomb was the only logical explanation. They firmly believed the airship was simply too robust to fail on its own. The political paranoia of 1937 fueled these theories. Rumors circulated that Adolf Hitler himself had ordered the ship's destruction as retaliation against the Zeppelin company's leadership, who had expressed anti-Nazi sentiments. Decades later, a new hypothesis emerged, the incendiary paint theory. It argued that the specific chemical coating used to waterproof the ship's outer fabric contained elements similar to solid rocket fuel. This chart shows the discrepancy in that theory. Modern scientific testing proved that while the painted fabric was flammable, it would have taken roughly 40 hours for the skin alone to burn. It cannot account for a 32-second inferno. To find the actual cause of ignition, investigators had to look past sensational theories and into the ship's physical behavior during its final sharp maneuvers. Let's look inside the framework. The sharp, heavy S-turns Captain Press made during the final approach placed massive stress on the tail section. It is highly probable that a taut bracing wire snapped under this tension, whipping backward and slicing into one of the fragile gas cells. The puncture was completely invisible from the outside, but inside, highly flammable hydrogen was escaping,
rapidly pooling into the empty cavity directly beneath the ship's upper fabric skin. This brings us to a critical design vulnerability. The Hindenburg's outer skin was electrically isolated from its internal duralumin frame. As the ship flew through the electrically charged thunderstorm, the outer fabric absorbed a massive static charge, while the metal skeleton inside remained neutral. When the rain-soaked mooring ropes were dropped to the ground, they created a conductive link between the metal frame and the earth. Suddenly, there was a massive electrical voltage gap between the highly charged outer skin and the newly grounded metal frame. Seeking the quickest path to the ground, the electrical charge forcefully jumped the gap from the fabric to the metal structure. It created a single, powerful spark, right at the top of the ship where the leaking hydrogen had gathered. The Hindenburg wasn't brought down by an enemy. It was destroyed by an incredibly unlucky simultaneous alignment. A charged storm, a sharp turn, a leaking gas cell, and a single static spark. Despite its notoriety, this wasn't history's deadliest airship disaster. 4 years earlier, the USS Akron crashed off the New Jersey coast, killing 73 people. So why is the Hindenburg the tragedy we remember? Because of the unprecedented media presence. 4 different newsreel camera teams were stationed on the airfield to capture the first transatlantic passenger flight of the year. The fusion of front-page photographs and the delayed broadcast of Herbert Morrison's emotional radio report created an early, viral media spectacle. It delivered the horror of the crash directly into living rooms and cinemas across the world. This catastrophic public relations blow coincided with the rise of international passenger airplanes. These new, heavier-than aircraft were faster and did not rely on massive volumes of explosive lifting gas. Within months, the commercial dirigible industry effectively ceased to exist, as companies halted construction and grounded their remaining fleets, in response to the sudden loss of public confidence. Today, the Hindenburg stands as a cautionary tale. It is a stark reminder of how a single oversight in grounding a ship can dismantle years of engineering progress in less than a minute, and how the lens of the media cements history.